Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for Tomorrow Survivalists, and this is one of those videos that you have to stick around and watch because this video can indeed save your life. If you happen to find yourself in this situation, this video may as well save your life. I'm not kidding. I say it right away. When it's one of those videos, I just say it. Hopefully you follow my suggestions. In this video, we're going to be talking about survival in water, when you go overboard, when you're at the sea, when you're in the water. What is it that you should know? And yes, this is because of what happened recently, in fact, with the sinking ferry in South Korea. Very unfortunate, especially when you think about the amount of people that died for following orders, for following the instructions that were giving people that thought it was in their best interest. And you know, it's surprising how the same thing that has saved thousands of lives in other disasters, that very Asian thing of respect for authority and following orders that has saved countless lives in other disasters. In this particular case, it was the reason why people died. They followed bad instructions. And the first thing to keep in mind, the first very important tip that I hope you remember is that at the end of the day, it's on you. It's your life. The final decision is on you, on what you should or what you should not do. Of course, these people are trained. They have proper instruction regarding what to do during emergencies and disasters. So the advice and suggestions being given by the personnel is very important and should indeed be taken into account. Most likely, it's what you should be doing. It's what would increase the most your chances of survival. They have been properly trained. That's the most likely case. But at the end of the day, it's on you. If that advice you don't believe is reasonable anymore, then you have to take action yourself. Your life, your choice, and it's on you. So like it happened in this case, the boat is no longer leveled. You see that there's a good chance that there's already water getting in. If the boat is no longer leveled, it may last for a few more hours before actually sinking. But the final decision, you have to make it yourself. I would, very case-specific thing. It's impossible to give good advice, without actually being there and knowing that specific case. But I would, of course, try to find a way in which I could evacuate as fast as possible if told to do so, or if I decide to do so on my own. All right, that would be the first step to keep in mind. Along with, of course, following instructions in terms of putting on your personal flotation device. This is a key lifesaver when it comes to survival in water. If you don't have your personal flotation device, you're basically risking drowning right away. You have almost no chance of survival. But it's a very real concern not to get trapped in a sinking vessel. Staying put when it's obviously going down, when it's obviously sinking, definitely not a good idea. Just a couple of feet of water, because of the dynamics of how that works, just a couple feet of water may be enough. Just inches of water may be enough to leave you trapped in a pocket of air, or even without a pocket of air, leave you trapped inside the vessel. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. Make sure you're not positioning yourself in a way where you're trapped. Even if you have your personal flotation device, you may not be able to find your way out of it. Okay. Now, why is it that the advice is usually to stay put? First of all, you have to understand that there's other factors involved. There may be poor weather conditions, so putting people on deck may be a bad idea because there's an even greater danger of going overboard and dying because of that. And so those are things that probably went through some of these people's mind. Now, at the same time, in this particular case, in the South Korean ferry, the captain was one of the first ones to be evacuated, which is, bordering criminal neglect, absolutely. But that may be one of the reasons why you may not want to be on deck. You may not want to be exposed to the weather conditions outside and wait for rescue personnel to arrive. That may be the case, which that's the best course of action. Again, depends on each particular case. Now, what happens when the vessel is definitely sinking? You don't want to be trapped in there. You have your flotation device on and you're about to go in the water. Your greatest threat here is no longer drowning because you have your personal flotation device. Your greatest enemy is cold. That's your main concern. You have to find ways of staying as warm as possible. And in cases such as these, where there's somewhat of an understanding that rescue personnel is going to be arriving somewhat soon, you may die of exposure because of the cold water in just a matter of minutes. Actually, you could die in the first couple of minutes because of cold water. We're going to be getting into that in a second. 5-6 hours even, if you have some specific cold water gear, you may survive for longer periods of time, but cold water starts killing you right away. 70 degrees Fahrenheit is already enough for you to start losing body heat. 50 degrees Fahrenheit, that's cold water temperature. That's a different ball game altogether. If you haven't experienced that kind of water temperatures, it's an experience, and your body, your muscles kind of spasm all of a sudden. It's not pleasant. You lose functional dexterity quite fast, and you may even die in the first couple of minutes. No matter what, even if you do everything right, you put on your flotation device, you go into the water as carefully as possible. If for example, if you have a cardiac a condition of some kind, within the first 2 minutes you may end up dying. You may die because of the cold water. Cold water will increase drastically your blood pressure, your heart rate, and that may be it for you. So what we always talk about being in good shape, just as a general good rule to follow for survival in any case, surviving stress, surviving cold water comes into play here as well. After those first couple of minutes, if you are lucky enough that you didn't die because of the cold shock, other things may happen. For example, sudden drowning syndrome. It may happen even to good swimmers because of cold water reaching your ear. You lose stability. You don't find your bearings properly, and even good swimmers may die if that happens to them in cold water. It's not the same as in a swimming pool. Completely different ballgame. After those 2 minutes, you are looking at reduced functional ability. You're not going to be able to move as well as you did. Your small hand movements are drastically reduced. You may not be able to operate door handles, grab stuff, tie a knot. Simple things that you do almost without thinking in normal conditions. Because of cold water, you may not be able to do so. Maybe trying to hold on to a loved one. It may not be possible for you because of the cold water. So keep all these things in mind. After the first 30 minutes, you're looking at hypothermia. You're losing heat from your core. It's pretty much unavoidable. It's going to be happening as soon as you put your feet in the water. and you have to do everything that you can so as to reduce the loss of heat as much as possible. What is it that you can do? First of all, try keeping your head above water and dry. When you are keeping your head above water, you're reducing drastically the loss of heat. You lose about 50% of your heat. Half the heat you lose goes through your head. So keeping your head warm and dry, it's going to be essential. It may not be possible. There's things you can do. You can, if you have a cap, a hat, even better, a wool hat. That's things that you can do so as to improve a little bit stopping the loss of body heat. Try staying still. It's true that movement generates heat, but in cold water, you're actually going to be losing more heat through movement than if you stay still. All right. Once you're still in water, what position should you be adapting? Basically, you're looking at two possible positions. The help position, which is like that, with your hands with your arms across your body, knees together, bend forward as close to your chest as possible, depending on the vest you're wearing. You're looking to reduce the loss of heat as much as possible. The help position, I believe it stands for heat escape lessening position. And you're basically looking at that. It's really not that much different from trying to stay warm in other extreme circumstances as well. But with your arms crossed in front of your chest and your shoulders, knees together, and bringing them up as much as possible, that's going to be helping, and staying still. If that's not possible because of the kind of personal flotation device that you're using, or because of weather conditions, if the currents are very strong, you may have problems keeping your head above water in that position, then you can adopt the survival position, which is pretty much like standing still, straight, with your legs together, again looking to keep your body looking to conserve as much heat as possible. Now, if you are in groups, which is a very likely situation, not being alone, if there's other people, then you're looking to huddle in groups, arms crossed with one another in a circle. That's not only going to be improving reducing your heat loss, it's also going to be preventing people from being dragged away because of the current. It's also going to be making a more visible target for the search parties, the search groups looking for you, than if it's just one single head afloat, one single personal flotation device visible. Several of them together, that's going to be helping to make your position notice a little bit easier. And it's, of course, much better for morale with people around you instead of being on your own. If you are considering traveling by boat and taking that sort of trip, then it's a good idea to take just a few basic measures. The kind of clothing, for example, that you're wearing. This may border the obsessive compulsive disorder, but guys, this is survival and preparedness. This is the Modern Survivalist channel. This is the kind of thing we do and think about here. There's certain type of clothing that help preserve heat much better than others. Wool, synthetic fabrics. Wool in particular, there's studies have been made about wool keeping your heat even better when wet than when dry. So wool is an excellent choice for when you're traveling on sea, in case you happen to find yourself wet or, God forbid, in the water itself. And you know how we always talk about EDC, how important it is. I always, keep going back to that and such. This is yet again a case in which a choice such as carrying some basic implements or pieces of gear, whatever you want to look at it, may make the difference between making it out of there alive or not. If you have, for example, a simple flashlight, like we've always talked about, having at least a flashlight, having at least a multi-tool and a knife, those are things that may end up saving your life in a number of different scenarios, and this is no different. If you have a flashlight, you are gonna be able to make your position notice much better than if you don't have it. Strobe modes are invaluable in that case. You're in the water. One of the biggest problems is that even when rescue personnel arrive, you may not be visible. If you have something like this that may make your position notice much more visible, for anyone looking for you, this may save your life. And here is where the devil is indeed in the little details. That's why we talk about these things. Is the flashlight that you have capable of withstanding a certain amount of water? It should last submerged underwater for a period of time. Does it have a strobe mode? Yes, it does. Well, that's the kind of thing where it may end up saving your life. Maybe you have your life jacket, you have your personal flotation device on, you're cold, you're about to pass out, which may happen. You have something like this, you attach it to your pocket neck, something like that, right? And this may end up being the thing that saves your life, signaling to a rescue team looking for you. It's much easier than just screaming. And since we're talking about screaming, remember what I've mentioned so many times, the whistle attached to your flashlight. How I was talking about not having one in this other flashlight, ended up putting one. This is the kind of thing that you realize. This would be an example in where screaming is not nearly as effective as using a whistle. Saves energy, can be heard from much greater distances, and of course the light itself, it's so much better than just trying to wave your hand and making your position noticed that way. Just a few things that are important. Finally, once you find yourself in the water, what is it that you should do? All right, you made it out. You are in the water. You know that you're running out of time. As soon as you're wet, you're running out of time because of loss of heat. Should you stay put? Do you see a dry land that it's maybe within reach? I mean, it happened in the cruise ship in Greece. I mean, those guys, they were just right next to the island that the captain crashed it against. Many of those folks just swam their way to dry land, saved their own lives that way. Couple of things to keep in mind in this case. Don't overestimate your abilities. Even if you're a good swimmer in pools, it's not nearly as good as trying to do that in the sea. By no means. The water temperature alone is an issue. You may not judging distances as well. If you are in a large vessel, in a ferry, in a cruise ship, chances are a rescue team is already in their way. In general, if you don't see, a dry land obviously close next to you, the basic piece of advice to follow is stay in that same spot. That's where rescue personnel is going to be heading. That's where you should be staying if you don't have anywhere else to go, rather than trying to swim. If you don't have anywhere visible to go, by all means, that's without a doubt the best thing. You're not going to be reaching anything that you don't see just by swimming. Stay there. Try to wait until you're rescued. If you are considering swimming, then that's perfectly possible. I mean, it happened for these people, for these folks in the cruise ship in Greece, but it was pretty obvious that they had dry land just well within their reach. Even then, I think it was 30 people ended up dying in that cruise ship as well. A number of reasons why people may end up dying. Just the stress alone is going to be killing people. Falls from the ship being at an awkward angle because it sank or it crashed or it hit the ground on some level. Those are obviously things that could happen. People drowning, just follow that. That would be a good basic guideline to go by. If you don't see dry land, and if you don't believe you can reach it, then wait for rescue personnel to get where you are. Unless, of course, you have no doubt because of the specific circumstances in which you are involved. Maybe no one knows where you are. Maybe this is a solo trip that you took. There's really no one there, and you don't expect any help to reach you by any means. And then, of course, do what you can. But in general, that would be the good piece of advice to follow. Also, something that may be important to keep in mind, vessels made after 1978, I think after the 31st of July of 1978, monohull recreational vessels of under 20 feet, excluding with a few exceptions such as kayaks, canoes and such, have been made so as to float even when capsized. So even if your boat has already capsized, doesn't mean that's going to be sinking. It may be floating, it may be floating in spite of that, all right? It doesn't always mean that it's going to be sinking. And if you have something to stay put on and keep most of your body above water, remember what we were saying in the beginning about your greatest enemy being the loss of body heat. If you're able to keep most of your body dry, then that's going to be drastically improving your chances of survival, especially if emergency personnel is heading your way and it may be taking a little bit longer for them to get there. So these are all things to keep in mind. Remember the basics. Let's quickly go through them. Keeping yourself in a position where you're able to quickly evacuate the vessel if needed, having your personal flotation device on, the EDC stuff that we always talk about, a flashlight in that situation. If you're floating, drifting in the ocean and people are looking for you, having a flashlight may be a lifesaver. Body heat, keeping your head as dry as possible, if possible at all. Take a look at the clothing you're going to be wearing. Synthetics usually are good. Wool would be more indicated. Definitely try avoiding cotton and such, which it's pretty much awful. Sometimes people talk about what's better, removing your clothes when in water or not. In general, what I found out is that in general the advice is to keep your clothes on. It's gonna be improving somewhat your retaining your body heat and trying to move as little as possible. Folks, just a few things to keep in mind. Hopefully you will never have to use any of this, but this is what we do at the Modern Survivalist channel, of course, for obvious reasons. Guys, have a great day, take care, share the video with others, especially if you have anyone that you know that often finds themselves in a boat and may not know some of this stuff, or traveling in ferries often. That's just in case. Guys, take care, have a great day, see you on our next video.